Dear Lauralii, after we returned from the hospital that you were born in, which was Robert Wood Johnson in New Brunswick, we returned home to an apartment in Ford's. Daddy and I had a little bassinet for you, and you were right next to our bed. We decided to take turns on, changing and feeding you between the morning and the middle of the night when you'd occasionally wake up and get cranky with us, which wasn't very often, actually. You were a pretty good baby. You slept all the way through. Um, you know, a little into this is when we heard the most obnoxious doorbell ring, and these two women showed up. And they said that they were with DYFS of Middlesex County Coastal and Perth Amboy, and they demanded that we let them in, which stupidly we did. Now, we were in a very small apartment. It was just a one bedroom, and things were a little cluttered. We didn't get to cleaning much, but there was nothing out of the ordinary of a new family in a really shitty small apartment. And in their reports, they said that we didn't cradle the back of your head, that we put you down on a table and left you there, but we didn't have a table in our apartment. There was a counter, like one of those island counters for the kitchen, but we didn't have a table. We didn't leave you alone. So they botched a lot of the report. And then they eventually turned to us and said that you and I would have to move in with my father and my stepmother. And unfortunately, due to issues between your father and my family, he would not be permitted to stay with us. So they were already separating our family. We went to stay with my father and my stepmom. You and I. We took the old upstairs bedroom, and it got really tough. I didn't know how to handle things without your father being there. I was always very tired, and I was constantly being harped on about I wasn't feeding you properly, I wasn't pumping enough at a time, when the reality of things is, even when I pumped, nothing really came out. I wasn't producing enough, and I already had it firm in my mind that I was going to switch you over to formula. However, that's not something that they were too happy about. So I would get yelled at, or, because God forbid, I would be told that I wasn't doing something right, or that I have to do this, I have to do that. So rather than being supportive, it just felt like I was a child getting scolded by her parents again. I didn't like that, and unfortunately at the time I was very resentful that they didn't really let your father come by, and I missed him very much because at the time we were still in love. I felt that it was unfair to keep him from his newborn daughter, despite the issues him and I had with his cheating in the past and his affairs. I just wanted us to be a family, and within the first 3 weeks of you being home, we were already being ripped apart and separated, and it was an absolute disaster. I became very resentful of my family because of this, and I decided to leave. But I could not take you with me at the time. DYFS wouldn't allow it. So I went and I moved in with your father and his family, because he decided to stay kind of close, only a town away. That way he'd be readily available if he could see you. And we tried to get you transferred there to stay with us under their supervision. My family did fight that. They tried to swear that there was mold in the basement and all this other stuff. You weren't going to be in the basement. We were going to renovate it to see if we can live there, but it was still something that wasn't going to happen for quite some time. We would have moved back to Ford's, and then from there, once everything was settled in the new house, then we'd move. But, you know, shit happens. And that's when, we had just given you a bath, and, we saw a cop car and a white van pull up outside. And they said that they had a warrant to take you. And I held you in my arms, and I pleaded with them. I asked why. I said, I don't understand. There's nothing wrong. We haven't done anything. We weren't being charged with abuse or neglect. Nothing was wrong, and they just... We weren't well informed enough, and I will never forget how loud and how terrible my screams were as they drove away with you. Your father couldn't even look at me. He went into the basement with a bottle of Jack Daniels, and he drank his pain away while I sat upstairs screaming, crying hysterically, freaking out, not knowing what to do. And it was probably one of the worst days of my life. And everyone witnessed it in that house. There was your father's brother-in-law, his friend who owned the house, and 3 of our friends. Everyone saw it. And that's how we lost you.